Good morning, everyone. It's really wonderful to see all of you. I'm still emotional from that Goodness of God song. That one just gets me every time. I want to talk about becoming owners of our lives. This is something I really resonate with a lot. And sometimes we talk about what is an owner's mentality versus like a renter's mentality. And of course, I want to talk about this in terms of our life and our faith. But it's very helpful to look at what is an owner in terms of a house, if you're renting a house versus ownership of a house. When you rent a home, you pay month to month. You get the benefits of living in a space, but you're not necessarily responsible if something needs to be fixed or replaced. But also, if you wanted to tear down a wall, that's not necessarily something you could do either, right? There's a limitation. There's not so much responsibility and also not so much freedom. And if the owner decided that they wanted to sell the house or increase the rent, that's something you don't have any control over. On the other hand, an owner is responsible no matter what. If they own the house, they have the freedom to do what they want to do with it. They can tear it down and build a new one. They can take out walls. They can change the colors of the paint. But they're also 100% responsible if the appliances break or they need a new furnace or a tree falls on the roof and they have to replace the roof, right? There's more freedom and there's more responsibility. If you take this and put it into our life, a renter's mentality on life looks more like things happen to me. This is the way things are. There's less freedom in their minds of what they're able to do because of the way circumstances are or what other people have done to them, or there's limits that people have imposed on them, either through their words or through their actions. There's less freedom, but also less responsibility. Well, they did this to me, so that's their fault, so I'm going to let them deal with it. And there's also not such clear consequences of actions. You know, if you're renting a home and you don't take such good care of your dishwasher, so in our home, we have a really nice dishwasher, but a year or two ago, it wasn't working so well. And if we were renting, we would have, well, we live in the church's home, right? So we're not paying to live there, but also there's nobody to call to be like, hey, you got to replace this, right? So in a way, we're owners, well, not owning, but our dishwasher wasn't working so well. And typically, as a renter, I'd be like, hey, owner, landlord, I need a new dishwasher. And the owner would be like, all right, let's get you a new dishwasher. But we know how much a nice new dishwasher costs. And so Mike figured out that in the little sprayers of the dishwasher, each little nozzle had started to get clogged with gunk. And he spent like 5 hours using little wires and toothpicks to clean out all the gunk so that it could work well again. And we have it's an amazingly good working dishwasher. I appreciate they don't have to rinse everything super well before I put it in. But it's even that shows a difference in mentality, right? For a renter, well, I don't have to take such good care of my dishwasher because if it breaks, somebody else is going to replace it. But the owner's mentality is I need to take care of things along the way and maintain things. I need to maintain my dishwasher. Or in life, I need to maintain my relationships because I'm the one who's responsible for my relationships. There are clear consequences of actions if we are an owner in our life. So there's a Bible story that I think is so super clear on this kind of mentality, and it's one of the first ones in the Bible. It has to do with Cain and Abel. Now, Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. So at this point, Cain is facing kind of a crossroads. He's feeling at the mercy of his circumstances. Well, I did what I could do. I did my best. God rejected me. So I guess that's it. I have no hope. His brother's offering was accepted and his was not. Therefore, he felt outcast and hopeless. But we do see that God spoke his truth to Cain. Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. Its desire is to have you, but you must rule over it. I feel like if we could really capture and understand in our hearts what God is saying in this one little paragraph here, there's so much wisdom in how to live our life, how to face difficulties and disappointments, and how to overcome our own fallen natures. God was telling Cain, you have a choice in this situation. You can be the owner of this situation. If you take responsibility, if you do what is right, you'll be accepted, right? Do your portion of responsibility. I'll take care of the rest. But he's also saying, I see in you this tendency to have more of a renter's mentality. I see you blaming your brother. I see you. I see the readiness to lash out or to blame and to deflect. And that is exactly what Cain did. He goes and he kills his brother, and then God comes to him and says, where is your brother Abel? I don't know, he said. Am I my brother's keeper? Is there any other quote in the Bible that says, I'm not responsible so clearly? I'm not an owner. Am I responsible for the people in my life? In this moment, Cain clearly displayed his rejection of ownership of his life and his relationships. So I feel like maybe we're not in this exact same situation in our life. Maybe we don't want to, maybe we're not so jealous of our siblings that we want to kill them. But aren't there times in our life where we just feel like, God, it's not my fault. This is so hard. It's obviously this person's fault. And don't we feel that feeling of being torn, of wanting to be the bigger person, right? To forgive, to take responsibility, but also this desire to just be like, I just want to blame them. Stick it to them. Why do I have to be the one who's responsible? Can't somebody else do it? An owner feels responsible for their life and what they do with it. They're very aware of the outcomes of their actions. But if I'm being honest, being that person, being the owner, often feels like a burden, or it feels overwhelming, or it's stressful. At least for me. I don't know how it feels for you. But it's interesting, in our school that we've started, our names for things are different, right? We don't call our students, they're learners or heroes. We don't call the adult in the room a teacher, we call them a guide. And I am not a principal. My actual title is owner. owner of the school. So it's just like in my face all the time. that is my role and that I can't escape that responsibility. And sometimes it's almost like a euphoria, like, wow, I have the blessing to create such a beautiful environment for our young people to learn and grow in. I have the blessing to be able to create something. It's like this, almost like a God spark of like, wow, look what we're creating out of nothing. And at the same time, it's like, man, if we're having a tough day, then I feel like, it's my fault. Or is there anybody else I could put this responsibility on? Anybody else take care of this problem for me? No. And I think that we all have these roles in our lives. Maybe we're not a CEO, or maybe we're not a pastor, but we all take a leadership role in our families or in our whatever capacity that we're living our life in, whether it's as an employee or simply in our relationships with our family. So sometimes we feel that it's overwhelming, or that there's a weight on our shoulders, or that it's lonely to be a responsible person. It's easier to want to pass it off or to blame God. But I always find, for me, the turning point is with what perspective do I look at this responsibility with? Do I see it as a weight? Or, in the same vein, am I looking to gain something personally from this? Am I looking for status? Am I looking to be recognized for my responsibility and how good I'm doing this? Am I looking for my own personal gain? If I'm looking for my own personal gain or just feeling overwhelmed by it, it's not a happy role to be in. Or am I looking, is the reason I'm doing this out of love? And I know that when I let go of what I think people are thinking about me, am I looking like I know what I'm doing? Sometimes I worry about that. Do I look like I know what I'm doing? Because if I don't, people won't trust me. They won't want to support me, right? Or when I let go of those things and I look at my original motivation for having a family, for wanting to be a pastor, for wanting to start this school, I come to a motivation of love. And when I touch that, it's almost like an instantaneous flip of a switch for me. Then the responsibilities are not a burden. I get excited. I get new energy. I get new ideas on what I can do. I was feeling overwhelmed about school last week, and then Mike and I took a quick overnight trip to Red Feather Lakes, and we were in nature, and we were in beauty, and we were able to share freely with each other. And by sharing with my husband, I could let everything that was just swirling around in my head and feeling stressful out. And all of a sudden, I had like 3 new avenues of action in front of me that I could take, and I was excited about. But partly was me reconnecting to, why am I doing this in the first place? And our motivations need to come from a place of true love. And why is this? If we are being completely honest, we don't actually own anything, right? Everything we have in our life, even our clothes that we paid for with our own money, right? This was a gift from God. These materials, these resources were all given to us by God. They are God's things. Even our own family, even children that we birthed ourselves, right, are a gift from God. So everything that we have, right, we don't take it with us when we leave. We arrive with nothing. We don't arrive with clothes. We arrive completely naked, and we leave everything behind when we die. So nothing that we say that we own is actually ours. We're actually stewards for God. God is the true owner. So it's in our taking God's point of view, right? Seeing with God's eyes, like the song that we played. When we see with God's eyes, then we can own things with true love. We can kind of take God's place in the physical realm to take care of things. There's a famous speech by our Reverend Moon, True Father, called God's Hope for America. And he talks a lot about kind of the situation that America is in. The amazing parts of America and also the difficult and dark parts of America. He says, who can turn things around? Who's going to be the one to do it? America belongs to those who love her most. So with true love, we can make the difference. And I really resonate with this in a very simple way. My boys had a guinea pig named Annabelle. And she was a very sweet and personable guinea pig with lots of character. And technically, it belonged to my boys, right? They paid for her. They cleaned her cage. But really, I was the one who loved her most. I would be the one to bring her little carrots and snacks, and I would take her out and play with her. And she knew it. You know, guinea pigs bond with one other being, and it's usually a guinea pig. But this guinea pig bonded to me. So every time she heard my voice in the hallway, she'd go, weep, 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 weep. She was like calling to me, you know, and if I came up to her cage, she would run up to the door and like wait for me to pick her up. I kind of feel bad to my boys because she didn't do that to them. But true ownership belongs to the one who loves the most, right? This guinea pig knew that I'm the one who loved her the most, and she responded to that. So I think this is interesting because this is saying that, you know, maybe some people would say, oh, America belongs to the president or to whoever is in charge, right? This is the person who decides what to do. This is the owner of America, or technically my boys are the owner of the guinea pig, right? But what makes the most difference to the thing being owned? It's whoever loves them the most. So I think this needs to be a shift in all of our hearts. You know, I think we can see lots of examples in the world of false owners, people who are leaders, people who run things, but they do it for the sake of material gain or for the sake of status. And they might be really successful, at least for a time, but many times, I'm not going to name names, but I'm sure you can think of some really rich people or some politicians or somebody was going to come to your mind where they might seem successful, but things implode. And it's not necessarily because of outside forces. It's because of what's going on in their own hearts, right? Their own motivations. Not able to rule over their fallen natures, not able to rule over the sin that's couching at the door. So this, I think, brings up a really interesting point, that true ownership is not necessarily just what we have or the things that we do or the things that we say, but ownership actually first comes from owning my own heart, owning my own thoughts, mastering myself first. But it's something we need to grow into. You know, if you were to have told me when I was 23 that I was going to have a family with 4 kids, and if you were to tell me everything that would entail in that, you know, sleepless nights and messes that I can't count how many messes I've had to clean up, and the kind of patience that it requires, and not giving in to my own frustrations and emotions with kids. If I could see all of those things from the beginning, I would just never want to become a parent. No, I can't do it. But we grow into our roles of responsibility. We grow into ownership, right? It starts with small things, and then when we master ownership over a guinea pig, then we can have ownership over a cat. And when we have ownership over a cat, then maybe we could, it's like you start to level up in your experience and in your responsibility. We've often shared this example from this big self-development guru, T. Harv Eker, right? He says, if you're a level 5 person and you face a level 8 challenge, that challenge will seem insurmountable. Like, there's just no way I can deal with that. But if you can grow yourself bit by bit to a level 9 person or level 10 person, that same level 8 challenge will just be a speed bump on the road. So, same thing with having kids, right? First, I just had twins. Most people just have one to start with. I had 2. But it's just, having one child or your first child is in itself a huge challenge. Your whole life changes, your priorities change, the way you spend your time and your energy changes. It's like a big shift. And then if you have another one, then it's like a whole other thing. You've got a newborn plus a toddler running around and demanding your attention, right? So, but I didn't just have 4 kids all at once, right? It happens one at a time, and I grow myself along the way. I read this book this week called Don't Tell Me I Can't. And it's by a 14-year-old boy who was unschooled. He unfortunately passed away in a kayak accident this summer. But his whole story was that he was born into a very poor family who moved to the Great Basin Desert of Utah when he was 4 years old. They had essentially no money. Both of his parents were disabled, and he had an autistic older brother. And his parents thought, my gosh, we don't have much to offer our kids. But they looked at the public school down the street, and they watched the kids walking back and forth, and they overheard their conversations and thought, well, we can't do worse. They didn't have any confidence that they could do a great job, but they thought, well, at least I can't do worse. So they decided to homeschool their son. And because of their own limitations of what they could do, his dad was in a wheelchair, his mom was partially blind, they couldn't help him with a lot of things, so he had to learn how to do things by himself. And he had this mentality from very early on, me do it, right? I'm gonna do it. And as he started to do it, adults would say, well, you don't know how to change a tire in a car, you're only 6. And his mantra was, don't tell me I can't. And he started to take responsibility for repairs on his farm. He started to take responsibility for his parents' finances. He then, at 7, 8 years old, created his own business of farming meat rabbits to sell to restaurants in California. And then he grew that to meat goats, and then he bought a house and flipped the house. And by the time he was 14, he had a plan on how to stop the depletion of the water table in the Great Basin area and restore the water table. So it was like just mind-blowing to me that this 14-year-old could do this. But something that really struck me in reading his story was that he wasn't overwhelmed by the weight of it all. He says he's read so much about climate change, and everybody's saying, we're doomed. But all he started with was farming meat rabbits and realizing, oh, I can do this. Like, he leveled up. And then to goats, and he leveled up. And then he started to believe, I can do what I set my mind to. And without worrying about the added stress or expectations of other people. He just grew into where God was leading him. And even though he passed away this summer, the world has kind of taken notice and realized, oh, he had a really good idea on how to reduce the depletion of the water table and restore it. And kind of the whole, anybody who knows about it is coming together to take action on his dream. But this also comes from a place of, with him, it's just a place of love. I love this place. I love my family. I would love for my kids to be able to grow up here and enjoy this beautiful area. And so what can I do? It came from a place of true ownership and love. So I think this is kind of the ideal. In reality, sometimes it will feel overwhelming as we try to take ownership in our lives, as we grow and stretch our hearts and our capabilities. But at the same time, as we grow ourselves, challenges that would have overwhelmed us a year ago or 5 years ago, we'll find that they don't make us struggle anymore. So I guess the real question is, where is our heart when we think about our life, when we think about the responsibilities that I have and the roles that I've taken on? Am I here because I have to be? Am I here because I'm trying to gain fame or recognition or money? Or if I'm really here because I truly believe I've been called to be here, because I love what I'm doing, even if it stresses me out. Right? And when we can connect to that love, that's when we find true ownership. I think God will accept us, right? If we do our best, if we do what is right. Sometimes we feel like I don't have what it takes. I'm not good enough. But just like the song that we listened to right before this, right? Sometimes all we might see is ashes in front of us. We don't see how there's a possibility for anything to grow here. But if we do what is right, if we do what we can, if we do what we know to be best, God can see all of that, and God can work with that. So this is a message for myself, but also I hope that there's something that you can find here as you're going through your week and your growth on your path of life. And if you notice in yourself sometimes this tendency to want to shift the blame to somebody else, or you feel like, I just want to give up, this is too much. I'm not saying that there is not a time to let go of something, but first, look at your original heart and motivation for doing it. Reconnect to that and say, did God put this in my heart to do? If God did, then there must be a way forward, right? So, I think that the main point is that ownership comes from true love. Whether we're in a responsible position or not, when we truly love something, we can become the true owners of it, and we can take responsibility for our life. So please join me in prayer. Heavenly Parent, thank you for a beautiful Sunday. Thank you for each person who could be here today. We're so grateful for their presence and for your guiding us each to this point in our life. God, when we look back on our lives, I think we can all find moments that we're very proud of and moments that we wish we'd done differently. But the whole path along the way, you've been with us, and you've been walking with us, and you've been guiding us. And I pray that we can trust that you're going to continue to guide us as we go forward. And I pray that when we come to these crossroads where sometimes we just want to give in, or we want to deflect, or we want to blame, that we can just pause and check our hearts and check our motivations and ask you for guidance. You gave us the three great blessings. You gave us the ability to mature our hearts and to share love and to have true ownership and dominion over this world. And I just pray that as we face our challenges, that we can stretch ourselves a bit. We can grow our hearts. We can grow our capabilities to be able to embrace more and to love more. We can resemble your true love to this world more. And I offer this prayer in my name, Michael and Adonia Hendrick, a Blessed Angel family. Amen and adieu. Thank you so much.